The Secret of Elm Hollow. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. The charming fake lighthouse attached to the post office in Eaton, New York, is a remnant of once-upon-a-time days when the building was the Tower gas station. Painted with an eye-catching red and white helix that recalls a barber's pole, the two-story tower peers out over a small town of a few thousand people, set deep in the green belly button of New York State. Almost a century ago, it stood silent witness to one of the most important public opinion studies that you've never heard of. In 1928, a doctoral student from Syracuse University named Richard Schenck came to live in this village. One of the very first researchers in the brand new field of social psychology, Schenck sought to conduct a study of how people, as individuals, form their opinions. He chose Eaton. In his 128-page PhD dissertation, he called it Elm Hollow, because it was a small, tight-knit religious community, remote from the complexities of city life, where everyone knew everyone. As in all tiny towns, neighbors in Elm Hollow scrutinized each other zealously. The gossips kept careful tabs on everyone. If a child walking home from school picked an apple from a neighbor's tree, or a man stumbled on a route while hurrying home late at night, someone was bound to notice. The people of Elm Hollow understood that Schenck was there to study their social behavior, but it didn't take long for them to treat the big city academic and his wife as their own. In the course of their 3 years in the village, the Schencks came to befriend Elm Hollow's residents, embedding themselves into the community. Since the couple attended church every Sunday, they were invited to baptisms, weddings, and funerals, as well as into people's homes for intimate dinners. Schenck wrote down his observations of the townspeople's behavior in a notebook he carried around with him. He queried them about proper public comportment, particularly their views on the various social prohibitions issued from the pulpit. Should baptism be done by immersion or sprinkling? He inquired. Is it acceptable to go to the theater on Sundays? Is it okay to play games with face cards? A prohibition originated from a Puritan hatred of British royalty and its dirty penchant for gambling. Publicly, the response was nearly unanimous. The vast majority of those he surveyed agreed that even playing games with face cards, such as bridge, was off limits. But after his first year in Elm Hollow, Schenck realized that Elm Hollowites weren't quite the same people they pretended to be at church and elsewhere. For example, despite what they professed in public, Schenck reported that he'd personally drank, smoked, and played face card games with most adults in Elm Hollow, in the privacy of their own homes. This hypocrisy puzzled Schenck. Why in the world would most people in a community say they disapprove of things that they clearly had no problem doing? In his private discussions with them, Schenck pressed his new friends to level with him. Attempting to understand the cause of this disconnect, he asked them a question whose answer would forever change how we think about public opinion, one that would lead directly to this book. What, he asked, do you think most people in this community would say about smoking, drinking, and bridge playing? Most people, came the reply, would say that those are very sinful activities. For instance, a whopping 77% of Elm Hollowites told Schenck that while they themselves had no problem playing with face cards, they believed most people in their community were in favor of the strict prohibition against doing so. But they had no idea that they were actually members of a silent majority. Nearly 3/4 of them indulged in the exact same vices, but they all kept it secret. Even Mr. Fagson, a young, outspoken Baptist minister who pushed a strong fundamentalist position in public, was in fact a staunch, bridge-playing liberal in private. Similar schisms emerged when Schenck asked the villagers about a range of other religious and secular issues, including whether or not they should build a new high school with the neighboring community, a particularly heated debate that led to fisticuffs. Puzzling over these weird gaps between public and private opinion, Schenck concluded that the people adopted just enough of the majority stance to be seen as acceptable members of the town. But why would they adhere to norms that they individually and collectively disliked? And how could the people of this small town be so utterly wrong about each other? That's when he learned about the cultural grip of a dowager widow named Mrs. Salt. Because her father had previously presided as the minister of young Mr. Fagson's church, Mrs. Salt claimed to embody that institution's history and ethics. Since she was also its largest donor, Mr. Fagson depended on her for a paycheck. Mrs. Salt managed to hold the townspeople in her iron grip for a full generation. Through the sheer strength of her personality, she dictated what one did and did not say in public. Inasmuch as Mrs. Salt is a vigorous woman and in the habit of giving her views on a subject considerable public expression, Schenck wrote, people frequently hear this oracle of the church expound her opinions and accept her views as typical of the group, without critical enumeration of just how many believe as she.